Hey guys, welcome to another episode review of Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7. This time we're going to be looking at Episode 3 on the Wings of Keeradaks. And this episode takes place right after the events of the previous episode. Anakin, Rex, and the Bad Batch have just rescued Echo and are trying to escape the Techno Union's base and return to the village. And this episode, overall, if you're a person that really likes the action in Star Wars The Clone Wars, I think this is a really fun episode with some great action pieces that aren't as strong as, say, the first episode of this season, but are still really good and really creative and just overall a lot of fun. But I can't deny that I was a little disappointed by the conclusion of this episode, especially if this is the conclusion to the Bad Batch arc. I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to wait till episode 4 to really know this, but overall, I left a little disappointed, but still had a lot of fun, and I think this is definitely the second best episode of Season 7 thus far. And I think my disappointment really stems from the lack of character in this episode. A lot of it is just action and really just... it's mostly just a finale to this storyline. That's how I felt, at least. And one of my disappointments is in Echo. So, in the first episode of this story arc, we figure out that Echo is still alive, or might still be alive, and then in the previous episode, we finally discover that he is alive, and he is a very different and broken person. And I thought, oh man, there's so much potential to delve into his story, and they don't really do that. They just kind of shrug it off. He definitely feels like the same Echo that we know from previous seasons of this show, and that left me a little disappointed. I wish there was a little bit more there of this broken person, and they definitely show that in the animation and like what he looks like, what he's been through, and that was really well done. But I wish there was a little bit more development. But really, this episode's focus is on concluding this storyline for the most part, so really I guess they didn't have time, or they didn't want to focus on it. But the ending of this episode does show some promise of maybe continuing Echo's storyline and what he is going through, because I think it hints at the end of this episode that there is some damage with him, and I like that, and I hope it does lead somewhere. Also, the comedy in this episode really didn't land for me as much as it did in the previous episode, which I thought was a really funny episode, but nothing really stood out to me in terms of comedy. And also, there was one too many moments of kind of a character almost dying and then not dying, talking about Wrecker, part of the Bad Batch. There's this moment where you think he's going to sacrifice himself, and it's kind of a cop-out. Anakin saves him, and then there's this moment near the end where he sacrifices himself for somebody else, and he gets away scotch-free, and that just kind of bothered me. I think it really would have helped this third part of the storyline if we saw the end of one of the Bad Batch, and maybe that's because they have other storylines that they're going to continue on with in this season. I'm not exactly sure, but it was a missed opportunity, I felt like. But overall, guys, at the end of the day, this is still a really fun, entertaining episode with some great animation. Of course, the animation has improved from the previous seasons. It's action-packed, it's a lot of fun, but it has some missed opportunities, I feel like, and definitely less of a focus on character, whereas the last episode had a big focus on character. And overall, it's perfectly fine, and it's almost there to being a really great episode, but I think it has some things that hold it back. With all that said, I'm going to give episode 3 on the Wings of Keeradaks a 7 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Are you looking forward to the next episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7? I personally am, because I kind of want to go into a new story arc, and I hope that's what next episode is. So I hope we get to see something new and interesting, and I don't know what's going to happen, so that leaves me really interested. But in terms of this story arc, if this really is the end of this story arc, it was perfectly fine. It had a really good middle part, but overall it was just standard Star Wars The Clone Wars fare, and that's not personally a bad thing or anything, but it left me wanting a little bit more. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this episode, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.